I have seen Joe Rogan and Kevin Hart shoot the beans the last few days. And it's something very interesting to see when you hear your own thoughts and your values and what you see as the truth, like different principles, that you stand by, and see those be shared by other people whom you respect, and see that, oh yeah, the thing that I'm working towards is very much within the grasp because I'm following the blueprint that felt right, but nobody really said was right. And I think this is because it's not shared in school. You kind of have to figure it out yourself. And through that development, you start to see that shit, there's a universal pattern here. And all of a sudden, it becomes fun. It becomes a game instead of anything else. And I've been talking about a lot of things lately: the legacy game, Spark Keys, the core, the campfire, Ceremony Mountain, the Witch's Cabin, Exalted Hammer, Essence Anvil, Ember Forge, 111122, and whole bunch of adventuring, modern mysticism, shamanism, psychedelic integration technology, psychedelic hyper integration technology, or FIT for short, and all of these different things that has been taking place, and people haven't seen the full context. And that is very simple, I think. I thought it was about dividing myself from the business. In the beginning, it was like I was the FML project. That was a problem. I became more of a personal brand in Seppola, which made me say things like me. But then people started to see what I was talking about, so they started to come in, and it was like feeling weird to send something. It's like start.theseppola.com. It just felt like this was not just me anymore. So it became something different again. The movement, the Legacy Forge. The Legacy Forge has its own game rules. It's its own unity or universe. It's a multiverse. It's a multiverse or a multidimensional game where we're just bridging the gaps between the digital reality online, the physical reality around us, and the metaphysical reality that you can access through dimethyltryptamine and all these other things like psilocybin and stuff that is just in nature. And to do that, it became kind of hard to explain anything of what I was doing because none of the people I've seen had done it before. Nobody had said that this actually makes sense. Everyone else around me said, this is crazy. Stop doing what you're doing immediately and go back to basics. There was so many things, but I saw that the reason was I had different conversations going on with different people I was talking to. Some people didn't understand that part, so I didn't say anything about that part. Some people only understood another part, and so there was a very hard filtration going on as I was talking about it. But I personally have my own values, my own goals. I wanted to be able to be there even though I was not. This is like a Vikings episode, come naked but dressed. Come hungry, but not. Come in company, but alone. The roots of the mountain and the beard of the woman. I could go on forever. But it was one of those things where I have been on this journey for so long that it has taken on a part of me that was hard to separate from myself. I have my own goals, my own journey. I wanted to be able to bring up my kids if I was to die from the blood clot. I removed it, kind of. I removed the side effects that I had from going through the treatments. And so all of a sudden the game kind of shifted because, I thought I had X amount of time, and then all of a sudden, here you go. Here's a little bit more. And it became more because I saw that the process is very much universal. It was like the map that you weren't shared or that wasn't shown to you. Nobody taught you. You just figured it out. And because you did, you had an intuitive way of going about it based on experience. It was muscle memory. And that is hard to explain to anyone. But it seemed like there was a definite development going on regardless, because now we've seen this with so many people going through the same thing, and it's always the same. So it continued, and that became a habit, just my way of communication and stuff. That became a habit. Even though we said a lot about the 100-day challenge, which was the challenge that it came from, or Saga, self-awareness, growth, and adventure, which became the program, the flagship, the whole thing that it became for other people. So you can go into a journey that is kind of laid out in chapters and makes more sense than trying to figure out for yourself. It continued, and all of a sudden there were these chapter changes, these big freaking things when you go through evolution, or you hit a situation or a chapter in your life, and let's say you experience a death of a close member of family, and all of a sudden you are left to deal with that for the first time in your life, and you learn kind of how to do that as you go, so next time it's easier. And when you hit those, it's hard to see what's on the other side. We call that Ragnarok, because in Norse mythology, it's like the apocalyptic event, the ending of the old and the beginning of the new. So that of course also became a part of this whole thing. And after that, it was like, when you can create whatever you want, life is a game, and you create the freedom that you deserve based on the experience you have and the knowledge you know in terms of transmuting it. It's like, now it's epic, you know. We had something called empowered something in co-creation. In creation. Something with epic, because you're giving back. You know, now you're like, fuck my life. And it's a different game. And all these things have taken so much focus to develop, to get done, to kind of test out and just tweak and all that stuff. So it was hard for me to separate my values with the company values that were trying to get into context, get into like a clarity, because that is a whole thing in itself, to see what do we stand for, what do we do. And so we wrote down values and manifestos, literally manifestos, because if you have a company and you want to do something for the world, you have a freaking manifesto saying exactly what you want to do. Believing in honesty, or always striving for innovation, and just things that we stand by. We make decisions through those principles. And I do that same thing in my life. So that's kind of one of the things that made it hard for me to separate, and I didn't really understand why it was as it was in terms of the challenges I was seeing in my life. Because when I was my business, and my business was me, it's hard to do anything, because you're kind of trapped in both worlds. And while this was happening, there was also the things happening in my own life that enabled me to see that I'm more than just a coach. I'm more than just a legacy forger. I'm more than just a web developer and whatever I do in terms of what we do online or on anything. I'm more than what I'm doing. So I started to sing, you know, I started to go into the things that I wanted to before, where I'm just trying to learn more. I'm trying to be more present here, and trying to find that balance here now. And just, you know, after writing down all the stuff of Norse mythology or 𝐓𝐴 or recording all these things, stuff sticks, you know, and it's about the whole trying to walk that balance and keeping those both in alignment. It's like you see it all the time. The practical use of these things are present all the time. You don't go into a forum where you don't know anyone in that online anonymous forum, because you don't know where your enemies, your potential enemies, are going to be. You don't know who's there for you, or who's there to expect or to just exploit you. There is no way. So you don't know where you're going in. So beware. You know, just keep your head on a swivel, and just be listening more than talking, for instance. These very simple things. It's the first stanza in 𝐓𝐴. Beware of the rooms you enter, because you never know where a foe may lie in wait. These are powerful things that we can apply today. So that, you know, having done that in the business part, living that in my own personal life, and then trying to teach that to people outside both. Let's say that there's a stranger, right? He doesn't know about Legacy Forge. He doesn't know about me. And here we're talking, and the activating energy that we're also trying to document is kind of taking control over the whole situation. So he's starting to channel whatever you're thinking of, it seems like. And all of a sudden you're into the whole topic of 𝐓𝐴, and you're talking about 𝐓𝐴 with passion now, because this person is on the same frequency, and you're going into the deeper meanings of it. And all of a sudden you have now shared it in a way where you learn something, because you're sharing it with a like-minded individual. You're sparring a little bit. And that kind of affects both you and the business. And it was neither of them that delivered this to that person. It was just that whole happened to happen and felt like it was meant to be kind of moments. It does feel magical. You can feel it. It's like when you're talking to a person. I think this is a very simple thing to do, I'm going to go a little bit on a tangent right now, but it's a very simple thing to do to change a person's life if they have never experienced what you do on a basic everyday level. If you work on something for long enough, you're going to get good at it. And when you're good at it, going back to the activating energy, you're going to be sensed by other people around you. So we don't know really how much goes into this. We do know as much that it will cover my arguments on this and my own personal experience, where it's information. I've been talking about this for years, like the vibrations, the frequencies, all that stuff is information. Goes on the metaphysical channels into this person's head. All of a sudden you're kind of sharing that energy and you're sharing all of it. So you're sharing kind of knowledge and memories that is not even communicated, like telepathy is a thing. Telepathy it's been documented so many times and talked about so many times, but since most people can't do it, it's been demonized. Like the reason we can't do it is because we're saying, I can't do that. You know what I mean? If you work and you remove the layers and the gunk from the channels that opens for those things, you're perceptible. You can start to see how it works and kind of like, oh yeah, you know? It's like remembering. It's like remembering who you are instead of studying something you want to be. And that makes it simpler because now you're kind of called to the whole thing. But yeah, going back, activating energy. There are so many things that goes well beyond what I do in the Legacy Forge or who I am at my personal life or what I want to do in the world. I want to change the fucking planet because I see these insanely stupid logical flaws in just how we're not going to get a solution if the person in charge of getting the solution is victimizing and guilt shifting and just blaming everyone for not being able to do it instead of just doing it. It's like the people. It's how we approach and respond to things. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you look at the leaders of the world, I know based on experience that many of these people will go through an ego death if they went through any psychedelic therapy. That means that they will kind of get shown who they are. And if you have been on the journey where you see that, you're still on the victimizing stage, or you're kind of in the place where you don't know what you don't know, but you're now trying to preach to make people think that you know, so that you're kind of projecting your own pain and saying stuff that makes it clear that you do not know, or like making it obvious. It's like the reactions to the whole thing that has been happening lately. The gesture on the stage. It was basically one small split second of a gesture, but it created a reaction globally. Everyone who has been communicated in detail as the thing that we are up against said, here we are. You know what I mean? It's like the opposing mindsets. It's different lenses to see the reality. It's like when people get a bill, you have a few ways of responding. You can say, fuck, I can't afford this, because you know exactly how much your life is worth based on the contract that you have with the employer that is paying you. So you know when you're getting money. You know the date. You know everything. You know when you get a bill that has an amount that is larger than what you can pay. You know. And so you let that just wash through you. There are another way to say the same thing. Like if you could go, instead of saying, oh, fuck, I can't pay this, you can say, all right. What do I need to create now? Because you're going to create something that is going to be reflective of the cash flow you're desiring, right? If you're selling something cheap and you're selling 2 of them a week, you're not going to do shit. You have to go big. So imagine what you would think if you have a bill that says 38 million crowns, huh? Like if you're an American, if you get $4 million on the bill, what thoughts do you have? Do you say, oh, fuck? Do you laugh a little bit? I can probably assure you that you will. But what do you do after? Are you going to let it affect you? Because, you know, quite frankly, it's a piece of paper. And people have been writing something on that paper. But we react to that as if there was a saber-toothed tiger standing face to face. So there's a whole process in emotional stability and just that energetic economy. How we respond versus how we react. You can be smitten by fear and just paralyzed, or you can be driven and fueled to do something that is going to change that situation. That's where we're at right now. So in my life, in my own personal development, I feel like I've reached some point where I can explain and communicate and find acceptance in where I've come. So I don't have to say a lot. It's like, I did that for me. That's kind of why I did the 100-day challenge as well. I will say that in many of the videos. I said, I do this for me. I don't really care who watches this because it's changing me on a fundamental level, and I can go back and see the development. So, you know, I can have people coming at me and saying I don't live life very well because they have the context of one video 3 years ago and they don't know what happened before, during, or after that. While I have every single video posted, unpublished, and published on my hard drive or online, and everything that I've done every single day for the last decade to fill into that context. So I can go back and see that milestone that was predicted as that piece of the plan was achieved, you know, and then we just continue and continue one step at a time, each phase, each level, each chapter as we go, creating as we go. All of a sudden we have 3 seasons, Essence Anvil, Ember Forge, Exalted Hammer. We have 3 levels of Fuck My Life, FML1, FML2, FML3. Fuck my life. Or no, fuck my life. Fuck my life. And fuck my life. It also means fulfillment, motivation, and love. 𝐓𝐴 Manos and Lagos. 𝐓𝐴 being the rune from the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 alphabet, meaning war, abundance, power. Not even war, not war. Take that away. Power, abundance, and just, you know. And we have the humanity in Manos, the universe. You know, consciousness and all that stuff. It just becomes so big. Lagos for the magic. I didn't know these things, you know. When I got into that whole journey of this, I didn't know what runes were. I didn't know what the geometric, the mathematics of the universe, all these different things that comes from just staying consistent on learning one more thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit. Knowledge is exponential. It's a whole-on. If you learn a small, tiny piece on something, it might add more perspective on a huge thing that just unleashes the entire, like, ta-da! You know? You're compounding knowledge every single day, every single second, minute, and hour. You are always learning if you are responding to it as that. If you're looking to learn, if you're observing, if you're curious, if you're like, huh, what can I do with that, I wonder? Like, seriously, there are people selling farts on a box today. There are literally a souvenir shop on the coast here where they're selling air in a box. Just because it's from the southern Norway. Makes no sense, but that's the world we live in. So I'm trying to do my best to just have fun, play through it, and enjoy the heck of it. Because why not? We all have that, oh, but I can't, what if? Well, you can do that the other way as well. Ooh, I wonder, what if? Because I can promise you, there are so many things that is just on the other side of something. And all of a sudden, you're going to just see that these things are happening, whether you like it or not. You're just going to be more aware of the synchronicities. You're going to see that, oh shit, this is starting to get very coincidental. God damn. It's like if that was supposed to be there at that moment and all that stuff. One starts to question things, to be honest. But it's paradoxical. The more I let go of the whole thing, the more it just fell into place, you know? Because I was always creating, I was always doing something, I was always pushing. I'm still doing that, 100%, but in a very different way. Like now it's like, we have done that. Now we do that. We are finished with this. Let's continue to that. That's a whole new era. And it's happening during Exalted Hammer. You know. Or do you? Do you want to know? We have a lot of things that is going to happen during this little winter right now. It is truly the end of the old and the beginning of the new, and Ragnarok has taken place so many times at so many interesting intervals. So now we're going to do something to symbolize this whole thing. We're going to have a gathering, the 2nd of February. Everyone is invited, but you have to go through a pre-screening process because we can't put kindergartners in an exorcism showing. I mean, that's just stupid. You don't show a 9-year-old something they're not prepared for. And, you know, there's no point, because if you do, you're kind of just discouraging people. If I was to say to you, you can do exactly like this, you know, and I was completely out of this, I'm not even relatable. I'm driving a Porsche, I'm having it flown from a gold-plated chopper just to go get my coffee that is being imported from France on a camel's back, swam through the ocean, you know. Who knows? If I am a completely different person compared to who you are, and I'm not any of those things, by the way, but I'm good at putting things into perspective. But you won't see that as something you want. Maybe, like, for example, who knows? Maybe you do want to have a gold-plated chopper bringing your fucking car around instead of just driving it. But if people see life as a dark hole at the moment, and they're like back at square one, they hit rock bottom, like they're now face planting the ice below, and they don't even know, is this ice the final? Is this the kind of the foundational ice, or is this also going to break so I can see that there's even another level of depth? Because it just continues, but in all spectrums, you know, if you see it as not good and not bad, but just okay, we're at that side of the spectrum now. That means that it's going to be equally powerful on the other side. I just have to be able to balance it out. You know? The darker the shadow it casts, or the harder it's shown, the darker the shadow it casts. Have you seen this? Like, just the balance. There is no light and only shadow and blah, blah, blah. But the balance between them, the dance, the ginungagap of it all. Yeah, I was not aware that I had been sprouting my face for 22 minutes. And I don't even remember what I was setting out to do in this video, which is kind of the point. That's kind of the proof of the pudding of what I'm trying to explain. Because sometimes it's just coincidentally that you're thinking about something that leads you into a thought pattern that does the exact same thing that you've been trying to force for months, you know? And it just happened effortlessly. And all of a sudden, there's like, oh, well, what do I do now? I don't have to do anything. I've already done it. Do I make sense to some of you? It's like, if I'm happy to just do whatever, publish, be completely transparent, then my MVP, my minimum viable product, is already done. I don't have to go in and tweak and edit and do all these things to boost it up. I can just have it out. And then it just builds as I'm doing, instead of trying to build and nobody's seeing it. Because that has been also a huge part of this journey. But we are now sharing the stories. That's something that I think is important to get into this. We are sharing the facade behind Norway, behind the facade. Or just the facade behind Norway. Whatever you want to, however you want to see this as. It's like we're putting a perspective in view. We're highlighting a certain perspective that people don't really talk about a lot. And it's the whole facade underneath. So you've seen the newspapers. We are going to now share the context of things that is not even in the newspapers, because it can't. There are things that has happened that has put a whole... It's flipped the pages. It has flipped tables even. It is powerful. So we are going to take it step by step. Right now, as of this recording, you can go to thelegacyforge.com. That's not going to be available forever, because we are in constant development. Change is the only constant. Thelegacyforge.net will be up from February, and then after that, we're going to have a meeting in February, probably the 2nd of 2nd, as I said. We are going to have more events, digitally and physically, and you're going to be able to see all this on the website. So right now, there is one for the 30th of January, 6 p.m. Norwegian time, called Forging a Legacy, where I'm going to go through, and it's free, I'm going to go through more of this. It's only for 6 people, because I don't think that I shall continue to just have free access. This is going to be limited as I go, because I'm done, you know, people pleasing. So as we continue to uncover this, we're also going to develop other places in the world right now, physically, Airbnb experiences, different coffee shops, the whole legacy game. there we go, back to square one. The legacy game is in full effect. There are now cards that are on billboards. They are on bulletin boards. They are on mirrors in pubs and bars. They are in the hands of people. They are in the garbage cans some places because people don't really know what they are, where they couldn't. They're working. So the coordinates are ready to go. We have a few starting points right now. The van is about to hit the road, which means that we now will be able to be even more mystical, which I look forward to. And the whole thing, Valhalla, the alternative, the natural health center / mead hall, is also going to be in development as soon as possible. Because of that, I am now coming out with the founders, forge founders, whatever we want to call it. It's a crypto thing. We don't really know yet because we are still developing, but it's basically the starting thing for the founders to jump in and see what they want to be a part of, get to learn more about what we actually do and how they can benefit from that, and then see if this system actually works at scale. Because now it's at a place where it's its own entity. So I have no idea. I'm just flowing. And with that, I have seen magic taking place. And now it's time to talk about that magic, because it's time. May you have an epic day. Take care of the people around you that you deem as family. Remember that even family is not a good enough argument if it doesn't bring you peace. It is a hard set of boundaries, but it can change your life. To really know who your family is. Communication. That's also something that we're going to go a lot into. I love your face. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Or inside, or in the next one, or wherever. Maybe on a dog sled. I don't know.